Okay, in today's episode of the Fortnite Mythbusters, we test out the KAMEHAMEHA Mythic versus Armored Walls, a way to make it past Indiana Jones's Vault's Rolling Stone, what happens when you KAMEHAMEHA the Fortnite Battle Bus from the spawn island, and so much more. Just as always, if you do have a myth you would like me to test out, make sure to drop it down in the comments down below. As well, let's see if we can smash 1,000 likes on today's video. That would be insane. Also, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to subscribe and turn on those post notifications to help us on the road to 1 million. Kicking things off, jumping straight into the first myth. The first myth is, can you carry multiple KAMEHAMEHAs or Nimbus mythics at the exact same time? Now, in-game, usually as soon as the Capsule Corp lands on the ground, everyone swarms around them, so getting multiple of these mythics at the same time can be a challenge. I went into a Battle Labs game and opened up every single Capsule Corp that landed on the ground until I had an inventory of Nimbus clouds, and I tried to pick up the extra KAMEHAMEHAs, but it would not allow me to. Out of these two mythics, the only ones that you can stack in your inventory are the Nimbus clouds, but even if you use one Nimbus cloud, all of them will get the 20-second timer after it's been used. Going straight into the next myth. The next myth is, can you light a campfire with the KAMEHAMEHA mythic? This is a very good question because there's multiple ways to light these natural campfires, but every single time I tried it with this mythic, it seemed promising at first. It shot its beam right into the campfire, but it would not light it no matter what. I then tried this one more time to see maybe if it would stoke the campfire rather than light it, so I lit the campfire myself. I used the mythic directly onto it, and as soon as I landed on the ground, I made my way back to the natural campfire where it did not seem to be stoked at all. In fact, if I wanted to stoke it, I had to stoke it myself, which, this was unfortunate. Going straight into the next myth. The next myth is the agency vehicle faster than a Whiplash? This is actually a great myth because the agency vehicle does extremely well off-road as well as on a normal road. Same with the Whiplash, especially when it has the off-road tires. Testing this myth out, I compared all three vehicles, the agency vehicle, a normal Whiplash, as well as a Whiplash with off-road tires, and they all started at the exact same time, where I was surprised with the outcome. The agency vehicle as well as the normal Whiplash went the exact same amount of speed, and the Whiplash with the off-road tires was just a little bit behind, but they were all very quick. But in-game, if you had all three options of cars, I would definitely choose the agency vehicle just because it behaves very well off-roading as well as on a normal road, and it is still very fast. Going straight into the next myth. The next myth is, can the KAMEHAMEHA mythic break through an armored wall? Now, it's pretty safe to say that this mythic has been very overpowered, and I'm sure we all have encountered it in-game, and it's not very fun to be up against. Testing this myth out, I got an entire stack of armored walls, 5 to be correct, and I placed all of them in a line, and I got the mythic and set myself up to shoot directly at it. Now, these armored walls have a whole ton of HP. They all have 2,500 HP, so if you want to make it through every single wall, it would have to deal 12,500 HP worth of damage, but it only made it through just about 1.5 armored walls. Definitely something great to keep in mind in game just to counter one of these mythics. You know how many armored walls you would have to place. I would most definitely recommend placing a wall and then a stair. That way, it doesn't take up as much space and it is still just as effective. Going into the next myth, and a very difficult myth. This myth is, what happens when a wolf targets a bird? Will they fight each other? Now, it's sometimes either super easy or super difficult to get a wolf to target you. So when I managed to get a wolf to target a bird, I was surprised with the outcome. I had 2 wolves targeting me. One of them saw a bird in the corner and decided to go after it, where it attempted to do a little bit of damage, but the bird immediately flew away. And once the bird got into, a pretty good distance away from the wolf then targeted back onto me, but it was still really cool. I don't think I've ever seen this before, and I didn't know it was really even possible. Going into another great myth. This myth is, will the KAMEHAMEHA break through a vault door? Now, obviously, we know the vault doors in Fortnite are unbreakable, and they can only be opened if you have the vault key or if you go through the scanner. Testing this out in game, I honestly wasn't expecting for the mythic to fully destroy the vault door. What I was most interested in was whether or not it would actually go through the door and deal damage to structures behind it. Unfortunately though, shortly after opening up the vault door, I looked behind it. I used all 3 uses of the mythic, and nothing was damaged at all, not even like the floors or anything. But going back into replay mode, it does look pretty trippy from behind the vault door. Going into another great myth. This myth is, what happens when you KAMEHAMEHA a loot llama? This is very great, and in game, especially with a normal weapon, it could take multiple magazines worth of ammo to fully eliminate a loot llama. So if you have this mythic, it might be worth your while to use one of its 3 uses up against a loot llama. I mean, the loot llama seriously did not even stand a chance against this mythic, and he was fully eliminated within seconds. and you know, it's definitely the most efficient way. Going into the next myth is, can you Nimbus Cloud launch past the Indiana Jones's Vault's Rolling Stone? Honestly, you will be shocked with the outcome of this myth because we've tested out so many ways to try and fully destroy this Vault's Rolling Stone or even somehow make it past it, but there's no way to get past it unless you leave the vault and then go back through after it's been fully destroyed. After trying to destroy all structures that could get in my way where the Vault's Rolling Stone actually drops, I took the golden tomato head and went directly on the line where, you know, the vault will spawn. And as soon as I saw this stone, I turned around, I launched with the Nimbus Cloud where I was actually able to launch straight past the Rolling Stone, and I was inside of the vault while it was still rolling through the tunnel. This is actually really good to know, especially if players are camping you on the outside of the vault. You could definitely trick them into thinking you died by dropping a little bit of loot and just launching past this stone. Going into a UFO myth. This myth is, can you pick up a supply drop with a UFO? Now, honestly, these UFOs were a whole ton of fun to mess around with, especially with the loot llamas and, you know, just normal builds. But I agree, going up against one of these in-game was a little annoying. I tried to get a UFO to pick up a supply drop, but every single time the supply drop was sitting in the lake, if it was sitting on the ground, I was unable to pick up a supply drop, and it seemed to have no effect on the drop whatsoever. Honestly though, it would be pretty cool to pick up the supply drop, take it somewhere else, and drop it. That would make for some great myths and you know, some pretty awesome content. Going into the next myth, is, what happens when you use the Kamehameha mythic while you're gliding in a wind tunnel? Now, there's not too many wind tunnels around Fortnite right now, except the one next to the rave cave where I tested this myth out. I first started off by gliding directly into the wind tunnel, and I used the Kamehameha mythic where it'll actually stop me in midair. It'll shoot its beam, and as soon as the mythic's animation is fully over, I'll go back into gliding. It'll take up an entire use of the mythic, and you know, you'll go from there. So honestly, it doesn't really affect you. I thought it would, you know, after the animation, I would completely drop and land at the bottom of the wind tunnel, but that was not the case. Still something good to know, and this is definitely a good way to kill someone who is hiding underneath that little ledge in this wind tunnel, because I know a lot of players like to camp underneath there and farm up some arena points. Going into a highly requested myth. This myth is, what happens when you Kamiyamas the Fortnite battle bus before the game begins? This is actually such a great myth, and for just a little while, I want to say like a day or two, the Fortnite spawn island would actually spawn in tents before the game would begin, allowing players to have the Kamehameha mythic before the game begins, which allowed this myth to be tested out. I want to give a massive shout out to the YouTuber Aid for allowing me to use this footage and sharing it with you guys. Make sure to go check out his channel, it'll be down in the description. He made it just in time with the Kamehameha mythic where he used its ability, shot it directly at the battle bus as it was leaving, and he teleported it into the bus where he looked over towards the spawn island right away, and you could not see the laser at all. It would be so cool if you could see, you know, the beam actually hitting the bus directly, but unfortunately it does not shoot that far. It has a max distance of 210 meters. But I honestly think Fortnite needs to update this just so we could go across the map to test this out again, or maybe that might make it even more overpowered than it already is.